Watch this.
Ahead for you on this Friday on the 208. With the Treasure Valley experiencing a rise in teen suicide, a local family describes the pain they feel after losing someone they love and what they're doing to honor their memory. Andrew Bartline has the story. Plus, with the November 7th election over and in the books, we're answering some viewer questions about some of the races that still needed to be decided. Yep, we're talking runoffs. And later in the show, in honor of Veterans Day tomorrow, our 208 Redial shares the story of a man who put his life on the line to serve his country in World War II. 208 on your Friday starts now. It's the sad reality of our times, our state, and even the Treasure Valley. Teen suicide is on the rise. CDC data shows that people ages 15 to 19 are 35% more likely to take their own life compared to kids in the same age bracket in the year 1999. And more recently, we're seeing kids die by suicide in our local schools. The Boise School District explained this in a letter to parents and families this week. The letter says, the reality of our community's ongoing struggle with mental health has hit our school families hard this year. In only a few short weeks, our crisis response team has been called into action for multiple student deaths and one teacher death. The letter says that some of the deaths are accidents, but multiple others have been suicide. This is a public health issue, and it's one that hurts. It leaves families and friends with more questions than answers, and a pain that doesn't go away. Andrew Bartline reports.
The signs are everywhere if you're looking.
Can't change the past. No.
Katie McClellan,
But
she's already seen them.
This was on April 23rd of 2022.
Alongside her mother, Natalie Needham.
Kind of a life-shattering experience, losing a child to suicide.
This is evidence of this random kid saying that she's guilty of owing me $28.
He was 14.
Oh, I vote that
he
Natalie should pay
hated me a little bit, or hated me.
Stop.
He definitely loved me a lot.
Mom, pay me $28.
Entertaining at times and exasperating at other times. Just typical sibling rivalry, I guess, but they were also extremely close, and I was grateful that they had that bond.
They shared a deep connection, and it was Katie that knew him best.
He also struggled with opening up a lot. So, he would shut down and just wouldn't want to talk on that kind of level. But usually it was just like he needed presence of somebody else. Just like that feeling of somebody loves me,
It was also Katie who was there for Charlie at his worst.
He was still alive when I found him.
It was a life-shattering moment to get that call.
The family says Charlie struggled with mental health. They tried treatment, they tried counseling, anything else they could think of.
There were other factors, I think, that were unknown to us at the time, and the bullying topic, which is kind of a hot topic and a little bit of a catchphrase, but it's a really, really big problem.
There's a lot of stigma around suicide.
With no easy solution, asks Chris.
Because you just can't talk about that anywhere else, right? It's kind of a
He's Charlie's
taboo
father, and he's on a mission now to find a home for a memory cast in marble.
I think this is the moment when I broke, when I realized what I was doing on the internet, searching for a headstone for my kid, and I came across this, and it just, the facial expression just gave me this feeling.
Like looking in a mirror.
Like, it just made me feel better. This is how I felt.
For the family,
No,
it's how they continue to feel.
I'll never be the same person again.
The statues become a passion project, a comfort in darkness, a sign of hope for others looking too.
Buy some land, of course, and tuck it back in the cemetery, but that's not where I want it to live. I want people to see this every day, and people are going to wonder, they're going to talk about it, they're going to ask about it. It's going to come up in conversation.
But I guess just to let other parents know that they're not alone and to reach out.
Chris says he wants to find a public home for this statue where people in Boise will see it while they're going about their day-to-day lives, and ideally to create conversation about teen suicide, about suicide in general. Natalie has also created a website called, quote, Change for Charlie. It is a resource that has discusses solutions, I should say, to help young people struggling with mental health and things that could be legislation or school policy. They talked about bullying being a factor as well, Joe. We will have a link to that website on our website when we post this web story. And of course, genuine human connection is what his father's saying is really the key to some of these problems. A deep, genuine connection can help someone in social isolation, Joe. And there's a suicide crisis hotline. We should be able to throw that graphic up for you now at the bottom of the screen. That number is 988 for anybody who needs to have a conversation or knows someone who could use help.
Yeah, it's a very difficult topic that I know our community is dealing with right now, and it's a conversation that's tough to have. So I really appreciate this family sharing their story, and peace and blessings to them. It's unimaginable, and thank you for your story, Andrew.
Thank you, Joe.
We're going to talk about some of your questions about the election this week, and we covered things like the Eagle mayoral runoff, Ada County jail bond, Middleton liquor by the drink, and Valley County EMS district. And there were plenty of other races that we didn't dive deep into, but you can find all the results streaming right now on our website, ktvb.com, or you can text the word election to 208-321-5614, and we'll send you the results right to your phone. But many of you still had some questions coming out of Election Day, like Steve, who asked, I wonder why in Idaho a mayoral candidate must win election by 50% plus one or face a runoff, but city council candidates are elected with a plurality without a runoff. Seems strange to me. Well, I can tell you the reason it is that way is simply because that's the way it's written in Idaho code, as well as municipal codes like the city of Eagle, the city of Boise, city of Mountain Home. But a real part of the rationale behind it is the practicality of multi-candidate races and the reality that you would have a ton of runoffs in the city council arena, which could turn into a lot of taxpayer dollars to run. So kind of an insight into there. Another question, though, did Avamore vote in the Eagle election? Yeah, this is a good question. The answer this cycle is no, because the annex is still going through and has not been done. So they are still in unincorporated Ada County, which means that they just had the Ada County jail bond on their ballots. As we reported this week, the race for Eagle mayor will go to a runoff, which leads us to another question. 208 election question. If you voted absentee, will we receive another absentee ballot to vote again for the Eagle runoff? That's from Lori in Eagle. Thank you so much for the question, Lori. I'll tell you this, anyone who requested an absentee ballot for the November 7th election will not need to submit a new request for an absentee ballot. That is from the Secretary of State's office. They tell me today that absentee ballots must be returned to their office, though, in Ada County, the elections office, by 8 p.m. on Election Day. And some big dates coming up, though, for that Eagle mayoral runoff that we will be keeping a close eye on for you. If you are hoping to get in for early voting, they will have that. They're going to have the whole cycle, everything you see up on your screen, including the logic and accuracy test that the county does to prove the machines are working perfectly. And then, of course, Election Day is December 5th. We will tell you the absentee request deadline is coming up on November 24th. Some advice that we will give you from viewers that dealt with this back on Tuesday. If you want an absentee and you haven't made that request, go ahead and do it right now, because if you make the request close to the deadline, there's always a chance that it doesn't make it all the way through the mail. And if you wanted to check if your ballots are headed your way, you want to see, do I have an absentee ballot on my way? There's a place you can go right now on the Idaho Secretary of State's website. You can find it here, elections.sos.idaho.gov. You can fill this out, and then you'll see there after you hit enter, it'll give you your status. This is my personal status. I don't live in Eagle, so that's why I have no request pending. I'm not really eligible for it, but you get the idea. This is the website you can go look at, and you'll find out. And speaking of runoffs, a quick update for you on the race to be the next mayor of Mountain Home. Similar to Eagle, neither the current mayor, Rich Sykes, or the challenger, Misty Pierce, neither of them were able to capture the majority, 50% of the vote. They got a plurality from Mayor Sykes, but what 100% of the votes counted, we now know that we are going to a runoff per Idaho code. So voters in Mountain Home, they will return to the polls like the voters in Eagle on December 5th. So the Elmore County Elections Office announced that date today, and they say that polls will be open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in Mountain Home, and absentee ballots will automatically be sent to any voter who requested one for the November 7th election. Again, if you didn't request an absentee ballot last time, but you want one this time, you can go ahead and do that, but you got to do it before the 24th of this month. You can get one by sending in a written request to the Elmore County Elections Department, or you can do it digitally at voteidaho.gov. Again, the last day to request one is November 24th. Do not wait until then to do it, though. In-person voting, though, starts Monday, November 20th, and will wrap up Friday, December 1st, the Friday before Election Day at the Elmore County Courthouse. With the exception of Thanksgiving and the Friday after, the courthouse will be open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right, a lot going on around the 208. So from updates in the cases against Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell to one of the downtown Boise's oldest buildings being deemed unsafe, we got a lot to get to. Our guy Hector Mendoza has got the 411.
New details today about Chad Daybell's murder trial. Daybell and his wife Lori Vallow were charged as co-defendants in the deaths of his first wife Tammy Daybell and Lori's children JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. According to new court documents, Daybell's attorney is asking the judge to remove the death penalty, so if Daybell is found guilty, he will face life in prison instead, which is the same maximum punishment handed down to Lori Vallow. Daybell's trial is scheduled for next year. Meanwhile, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office says there is no timeline for extraditing Lori Vallow Daybell back to Arizona. That's where she faces multiple conspiracy to commit murder charges. The attorney's office was hoping she'd be back in Maricopa County by the end of the year. Earlier this year, Vallow was convicted of killing her two kids, Tylee and JJ, and sentenced to life in prison here in Idaho. She's already appealed that conviction, and Governor Brad Little signed extradition papers last month, but the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office says there is no plan to pick her up until she is done with her appeal, which could take months. And one of downtown Boise's oldest buildings has been deemed unsafe to occupy. Its occupants have been asked to vacate the building. The city of Boise posted signs on the entrances to the Union Building on Idaho Street between Capitol Boulevard and 8th Street yesterday, declaring it dangerous because of structural integrity issues. One of the building's businesses, Moon's Kitchen, posted on social media saying they will be closed until further notice. It's unclear what exactly is wrong with the building, and that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Hector Mendoza.
Tomorrow, November 11th, is Veterans Day, and the video we just showed you, I should say, is a collection of images sent to us from viewers around the state of Idaho. Thank you for your images and sharing with us. Veterans Day, of course, is an annual celebration of the people in our country who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Federal holiday happens every year on November 11th and coincides with the end of World War I. U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs says that the war officially ended on June 28, 1919, with the Treaty of Versailles. But the fighting had already ended about 7 months earlier when an armistice between the Allied nations and Germany went into effect. And that pause in the fighting happened on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So, for that reason, November 11th, 1918 is generally considered the war to end all wars. Fortunately, that did not end all wars. But in today's 208 Read Dial, John Miller introduces us to a man who fought in World War II.
The next time you see Emory Franklin walking and waving at every morning driver, you should probably know this isn't nearly the longest road he's ever traveled.
In 1944, I went overseas from England. I crossed the channel and played with the Germans. Drove that barge up to the beach, and I jumped off into the water, and we went on up the beach. Front line wasn't too far away. I knew right then I wasn't going to get back to New York right away. You could hear the machine gun fire, and there's a day and night you got artillery fire. When I got hit, we wasn't even firing a machine gun. I looked around at one of those guys there, and this guy, I says to him, I said, "Guy, don't like this, life's crazy." And about that time I got it.
Got what?
Got a bullet through me. That was from a sniper, I guess. And still don't see how he missed my head, but he did. Yeah, it feels like you have a lot of security once you get on American soil again. You don't know how good it is until you leave it. I packed a machine gun farther than I walk every morning.
Something to remember the next time you see Emory Franklin walking and waving on the side of the road.
Friendly people means a lot to me.
John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
So again, tomorrow is Veterans Day, November the 11th, and federal employees in a lot of organizations, they're actually observing the holiday today on Friday, which means many government services were closed today. But as a small gesture of gratitude, dozens of national and local businesses are offering freebies this weekend for veterans. And that includes places like Starbucks, the Texas Roadhouse, Reed's Dairy, Denny's, Krispy Kreme, Olive Garden, and a lot more. In fact, we've got a full list for you of all those great businesses that want to support our veterans right now on the website, ktvb.com. We'll continue to update it as we get more coming into our newsroom.
We have a little bit of a Goldilocks fall weather situation going on. It hasn't been so cold in the mornings that you need your gloves or ice scrapers, but not so warm in the afternoons that you maybe can lose the jacket. So here's how that shapes up number-wise across the area. You can see those 50s across some Treasure Valley spots, in the 30s in the mountains now, and the 40s over at Haley, also 40s over in Magic Valley spots. So that's pretty seasonable for this time of year, and that pattern will look to continue. Here's what you'll notice over the next few days. Those clouds are going to be sticking around, partly cloudy skies, pretty much consistently through the next few days. We also may see some increasing haze because we have a high pressure center that's going to be dominant over our area. So in the valleys, we may see a little bit of that haze build. Same high pressure center will also be giving us some more mild temperatures. So here's how that looks for your weekend. You can see a little bit of a warming trend as we go into Sunday for those valley locations. Similar trend as we look to the mountains, but those numbers will be a little bit different. We're looking at the 40s into the 50s. And you can see we did have a little bit of moisture in some spots, but pretty much we're done with the moisture for the next 5 days or so.
What a beautiful shot there. Thank you so much, Sophia. Well, coming up this Sunday morning, hope you'll join us on a special viewpoint and have a guest fresh off of a major election win, Boise Mayor Lauren McLean. We covered that race, the Boise mayoral race, extensively here. So how does Mayor McLean feel about the cycle and moving forward? In her first extended interview since being elected for a second term, Mayor McLean and I chat about her response to criticisms from opponents, her message to those who did not vote for her, and her effort to meet the people of Boise, knocking on thousands of doors. I spoke to people in the community, and you can really say this about any race. They say, this is really a referendum on Boise's mayor. How do people evaluate Mayor McLean? And 55% said, absolutely, we want her again for 4 more years. 43%, they chose your opponent, Mike Masterson. When you think about those 43%, how do you bring them into the fold and say, okay, I'm listening, I know you voted for someone else, but I'm here to serve you?
Sure, and I've done that every time I've been on the ballot, especially 4 years ago. I will say time and time again, I'm a mayor for everyone, and I will continue to be thinking about everyone. And I often think to the conversations I had on doors this time around. As we've said, our team knocked over 55,000 doors. I knocked a couple thousand myself. And there were times I had conversations with folks that weren't going to vote for me. But at the end of the day, there's so much more that we have in common and so much more that unites us. And that's what I bring with me into the work.
How many doors did you knock?
What was it? I want to say it was close to 2,000 myself. Wow. And at the beginning, I had a knee injury, so it was very, very slow and be a little nervous that dogs were going to come out of the house. And man, at the end of the day, I was really tired hitting those last couple doors. By the end, I was, able to walk quickly and had incredible conversations, many of which I'll hold with me forever, whether it was like meeting brand new newborn babies, talking to a woman whose mom lived in the house and was in hospice and dying, or hearing from parents who've sent their kids off to college and they're so worried that their kids won't come back. And those conversations that I had at the door are some of the most special things about having a campaign and campaigning that way. In the same way, really, the last 4 years and the next 4 years, I'll spend a lot of time with Boiseans, hearing their stories, letting that inform the work that I do.
We will also catch you up on some of the major election decisions in our area, so join us Sunday morning at 9 a.m. right here on Viewpoint. We will be back after this. All right, thanks for joining us here on the 208. Let's get to some of your comments. And this one I wanted to talk about. We talked about the rise of suicide in our area. It's an epidemic, especially youngsters are young. And this person wrote in, Rhonda wrote in, just an FYI, yesterday at the Cathedral of the Rockies, there was a group called Survivors of Suicide. It was well attended, sadly. Started at 6 p.m. and is open all regardless of your faith. So a resource there from Rhonda. Thank you so much for sharing that. Some other questions. This person says, does the fire in the kitchen at Mai Tai have anything to do with the building tenants having to vacate? When KTVB has reported on this, they haven't mentioned it. Shannon, to our knowledge and from what we're told, that is not related to this. However, there's a lot of questions to still answer about what's going on with the union block. So our team is working on that to figure it out for you. Good question, though. Terry says, are there more details on the sudden unsafe status for union block buildings? Seems strange. Terry, you're one of a dozen people or so that have wrote in about this. Still working on that for you. We'll get that hopefully next week. This person says, so ironic, Joe. Hard liquor, yes. Jail bond, no. Makes no sense whatsoever. Kathy from Star. Kathy, it's interesting what the voters have to say every year. And then this person asks, what happens if no candidate gets 50% plus one in the runoff? Mathematically, unless there was somehow an absolute down to the vote tie, that can't happen. But we'll keep an eye on it. Stranger things have happened. We'll see you next week on the 208.